Louis, thanks for being on the show today.
I appreciate it, Sean. Thank you for having me on. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, I'm so excited for this.
Mhm.
For everyone listening, today we have Louis Stamoulis, who is from Northborough, Massachusetts. Louis, could you please introduce yourself to our listeners again?
Yeah, what's going on, guys? Like Sean said, my name is Louis. I'm from Northborough, Massachusetts. I am now in my graduate year at Quinnipiac University in the 4+1 program in Public Relations. I've known Sean for about a year now, and I'm really looking forward to talking with him and get things going.
Yes, I'm really so excited about this, Louis, because for everyone listening today, Louis is an amazing individual. He's done so much at QU and so much outside of QU, and we're going to talk about it today. So, Louis, first things first, what have you been up to lately? And on our note sheet here, you actually said this summer you served your second year as the program director for the Metropolis of Boston Camp. This camp is a nonprofit youth ministry camping program of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America. So you're the program director. Tell us a little bit about this camp and how you got involved with it in this capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Metropolis of Boston Camp, or to save time, I'll call it MBC from now on, because that's what everyone calls it up there. Like you said, Sean, it's a nonprofit youth ministry program that's run through the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America, which oversees all Greek Orthodoxy in the continental United States. They have a number of different programs throughout the country, including in California, Chicago, Texas, South Carolina, anywhere and everywhere. MBC is just the one that is for the Metropolis of Boston, which is all states in New England, and a little bit of New York as well. So I've been going to this camp since I was about 13 years old. I spent 5 years as a camper there. I spent 2 years as staff. And now this, like you said, this is my second year as the program director. How I would describe my job is, so we have 5 one-week summer camp sessions that run from late June to early August. And then we have a winter camp session and a fall camp session, which are just weekends throughout the year for kids to come up to our campground, which is in Quinnipiac, New Hampshire. So right 20 minutes outside of Concord. And how I would describe my job is from the time the kids get up in the morning until they go to bed, that's my jurisdiction. So I'm in charge of scheduling, staffing, transitions, planning all the activities, leading a good amount of activities, and really just making sure all of the kids are having a fun and, more importantly, safe time while they're at our camp. I say to all the kids, every single time we have our first big group meeting on the Monday that they show up or whatever it is, I look at what I'm in front of everybody, look at everybody, I'm like, guys, if you're not having fun, you come yell at me, okay? Because that's the way I operate. That's, again, like I said, my sort of jurisdiction is I'm in charge of all the activities, the scheduling, and really everything in between, a good amount of the staffing as well. So I've been doing this now for about 2 years. A couple years ago, I expressed my interest to my boss that I wanted to be considered for a position on the leadership team, because our leadership team consists of my boss. His name is Bono, and he's the camp director. And then there's myself, and then Alex. She is the assistant program director, so we're the program team. And then we have our boys and our girls directors that handle the boys and girls staffing respectively, and then also any of the emotional needs that our campers might need while they're at our campground. NBC's really an incredible place. It's truly changed my life, not only being a Greek Orthodox Christian myself, but as a person as well. I've met my best friends up there, and really what sets us apart from other, YMCA camps or whatever it is the community that we've built up there over the past 30, 45 years. This camp started way back in 1990. So we've been kicking for a long time, but it's very exciting to be a part of something like that. We just finished up our summer camp programs. This weekend, actually, I'm going back up to our campground because we have our staff closing on Sunday, and then we start to get ready for fall camp. So I know that was a lot, but this is something, this is a place and this is a community that I really hold near and dear to my heart. And it's been a part of my life for the better part of a decade now.
It's amazing. And I just, really admire how you started off at this camp and then eventually grew into this leadership position. And I think that's something that's very admirable. Louis, you kind of talked about this a little bit, but what inspired you to take on that leadership role?
Sure. So, really, I'll give you the simple answer, and then I'll give you all the details that come along with it. So, the simple answer is So we host kids from ages 8 to 18.
Mhm.
So a variety of different ages and developmental stages of life. And so I want to be a part of giving these kids the same, if not better, experience that I had as a camper.
Mhm.
Like I've said before, this place truly changed my life, and gave me friends and a community that I know I can always count on. And I want to be able to give that to all of the kids that, come through our gates and are a part of our program. I was doing that as staff, obviously, and our staff
Mhm.
members, they get put in a cabin for one
Yeah.
week or a weekend, and they're in charge of, let's say, 12 to 20 kids at a time. And being that close to our campers is really something special. But as the program director, I get to oversee virtually everything. I get to become close with not just like the 12 or 20 kids I would have, but all 150 kids that are there for any given week. It's truly motivating and inspiring, when you can see the little changes you make in a kid's life. Um,
Mhm.
I always say to our staff, so on our week long programs run from Monday to Sunday.
Mhm.
And on Saturday night, we always close our program with something called the Quiet Campfire, which is where we sing, quiet songs like Hallelujah
Mhm.
and Kumbaya and all this kind of stuff, right? We end the week on a very solemn and respectful note. And then what we also do is we allow our campers to get in front of everybody and give a reflection on their week. And so at our staff meeting prior to the campfire, I always say to our staff, I say, guys, as a camp counselor or a youth ministry worker, whatever title you want to put on it, we rarely get to see the fruits of our labor, so to speak. And this is the one opportunity we really do get to understand the impact we've made, because all these kids get up and they say how much this place has either changed their life, the friends they've met here. And so to hear, maybe, some kids who have a tough home life or have been through some really hard times,
Mhm.
in school or home or wherever, to see them get up smiling and really seeing that we've made a difference, not just myself, because this program is, I always say, I am not the program. It's all of the staff that put together everything, right? I joke around. All I do is write, schedules on paper. That's all I do. All the staff and all the campers really make the program what it is.
Mhm.
And so to see them give reflections and to see them even just a simple smile or a laugh at a joke throughout the week, it really can touch your heart in a certain way, especially if some kid might be going through a hard time. So I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to be a part of the leadership team that put together a program as special as that, right? I also knew, I don't know, when I was a camper and then a staff member, I also knew the past 5 or 6 program directors, and I saw what they did and the personalities they had, and how they were able to really change lives. And I wanted to be a part of that legacy, if you want to call it that, right? Because this
Like
this
the
program,
example that they set.
exactly, right. So this program's been going on for the better part of 30 years, and I wanted to and want to continue to do everything I can to make that place truly as special as it is.
I want to focus a little bit on something that you said there. Is just the impact of leadership
Sure.
and the work of not only you but the other leaders
Mhm.
on the lives of the children who are at the camp,
Yep.
and how even the little things, there's a lot of big scope things that
Mhm.
you do, but even the little things just have such a drastic and positive impact on these children.
Mhm.
Leadership, the
Mhm.
topic of leadership, what does it mean to be a leader to you, and what would you say is one of the most important or defining traits of a leader?
I'll give like two answers here, right? Because I have two in
Sure.
my head right now. So the
Yeah.
first one, actually, I mean, we've had him before. Professor John Powers at Quinnipiac University. He's absolutely fantastic. I think I've taken him over 6 times now, or whatever it is. He's really been a role model to me, and something that he has said from day one. It's actually just the definition of public relations is building and developing mutually beneficial relationships. I
Mm,
would say that is a prime aspect of what being a good leader is, right? I mean,
yeah.
you can be confident, assertive, whatever other traits you want to throw in there, that's perfectly fine. But if you can't build relationships with other people, how can you expect to lead them?
Yeah.
And the answer is, I mean, that's not really hypothetical. The answer is you can't, right?
Mm,
So I believe, why the program runs the way it is because of the relationships I have with my fellow members of the leadership team and the 130, 140 staff we have every summer. I'd say, that's my first answer, right? And then the second, so that was my first one is building and developing mutually beneficial relationships. And then the second one would be leading by example. Absolutely, right? Not being a hypocrite, because people see right through you, right? So when I met with the previous program director, just to pick his brain and really understand what he went through, he's a really good friend of mine to this day, but he goes, Louis, people aren't stupid. They will see right through you. So the first thing that you have to do is, number one, set expectations. And number two, you got to make sure everyone's on the same page, right? Because, and this could go for literally anything, right? If it's a small meeting you're having with a team you're working in the workforce, if it's camp and you're dealing with 130 staff, or even if you're just by yourself, like doing a school project, you need to set expectations, because if that foundation isn't solid and if it starts to crumble, the whole thing comes down, right? Up at camp, we set clear boundaries. We actually, we call them our 6 pillars, and they're love, honesty, respect, openness, trust, and forgiveness. And so that's what we preach to our campers. That's what we preach to our staff. And we always say, if those pillars break, everything we do here really doesn't mean much, right? And so this is why we have that strong communities, because we all follow the same 6 pillars, right? Yeah. So I would say the long answer to your question, right? But I would say it's developing mutually beneficial relationships and being transparent while setting expectations and not being a hypocrite, I would say.
Louis, how can listeners learn more about this camp?
Absolutely. So you can go to the Metropolis of Boston Camp.org, or you can check us out on Instagram, Metropolis of Boston Camp, I believe it is. And then also, if you go on Flickr, you just look up MB Camp. You will see all of our photos and videos way back to 2012. Yeah. So again, a number of different resources, our website, our Flickr, and our Instagram to continue to stay updated.
All right. So listeners, go check that out. That will actually be linked in the description.
Amen.
Louis, aside from being a program director, you also have some internship experience under your belt, right? Mm-hmm. I saw on LinkedIn, one of them was for a sports company. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then the other is a PR firm that you're incoming intern. Can you talk about your internship experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little over a year ago, I decided to make the transition into the Quinnipiac School of Communications to be a full-time public relations student. Actually, I got my bachelor's in health science studies and I minored in psychology. I thought I wanted to go into being a physician assistant, a physical therapist, or a chiropractor. Then ended up just not working out. However, I built up so much research knowledge and everything in between that I wanted to move over to PR. So when I moved over to PR, I knew I needed some experience before I went into the workforce, right? And so I started, I think, over a year ago now, I applied to 50 internships or whatever it was. I just kept throwing my application out to see if any fish would bite. And the one that did on LinkedIn was a company, as you saw, it's called Sports U. They're based in South Norwalk, Connecticut, so about 45 minutes from Quinnipiac. And they are a application and a web browser focused on collaborative team communication within sports. So they're a platform that is used primarily throughout the country in high schools. And so if if anybody's ever been a part of a high school sports team, I was on my golf team and then track team in high school. It can get very complicated to be able to communicate with a lot of different people all at once. And so what Sports U has done is that they've simplified that process in a really unique way where, like, the simplest I can explain it, and I explain it to people this way, it's like Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn all in one for sports communication, right? So there's a home feed, there's photo and video galleries, there's team chats, individual chats, there's file folders, like everything and anything that you might need to be a part of a sports organization in high school or even in college. Sports U has simplified it, right? So I applied to be on LinkedIn an outside sales representative. It was a full-time position, 45 hours a week, whatever it was. I had no intention of working full-time. But I got on my first interview with my boss. Her name is Jennifer Gross. She's fantastic. So I got on my first interview last year, and the first thing out of my mouth was like, Jen, being 100%, I just talked about transparency. I was like, being 100% honest, I don't want to work here full time, but I was wondering if you guys have any internships. And she had, so this is a small company, I don't know, 30, 40 people or whatever it is, spread out throughout the country. And so she goes, I've never had an intern before, but let's talk about it. Let's see what we can do, right? Because I told her I wanted to go into marketing and PR. And so she was like, yeah, we really need someone to help us put together or help us take inventory of all of our help articles, both on our website, YouTube, Twitter, whatever it was. And then we also need someone to put together copy for our upcoming Sports U playbook, they called it. Their process for when they were approaching a new client, normally an athletic director of a high school district, they would have to send a sales rep out there. They would have to be in meetings for hours on end, explain how to work the program, and then they'd get them set up. That's perfectly fine, right? But it just takes a lot of time and money to do that, right? And as they were growing, they didn't have enough people on the sales staff to send everywhere and anywhere. So she is the director of partnerships and sales. That's what she does at Sports U. And so she wanted to streamline that process by creating a playbook, 50, 60 page document outlining how to set up teams, how to get your school enrolled in Sports U, payments, and then, tips and tricks on how to set up everything. It's a fantastic idea. How it's a very lengthy process though.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So she was like, I can't do that right now because she, is busy lining up other partnerships and selling to everyone who wants to be on the application. So she goes, what if you come in, take inventory of everything, simplify everything into basic copy, and then work hand in hand with, they hired a freelance graphic designer to put together everything. Yeah. I said to her right off the bat, I was like, Jen, I can help you out with copy. I can help you out with inventory. I can help you get organized. I was like, I am an awful graphic designer. Awful, right? And Sean, this from working at the agency. We'll talk about it in a bit, I'm sure. But I know what I want in my head. But like graphic designers like yourself, you guys have a way of visualizing everything that I just can't do. So working hand in hand with their freelance graphic designer was fantastic. The document should be coming out. So I believe it came out in June. It's not on their website or anything, just because they distribute it to potential clients. That's not taking. So that was really my primary responsibility there, taking inventory of everything and really focusing on simplifying all of the tips and tricks in the app into one document, just so that everything was streamlined from here on out. So that was my time at Sports U. It was really awesome for a first experience, because I don't believe an internship should be, going out to get 50 coffees, coming back to the office, distributing them, wiping down the fridge. Like, that's not an internship, right? And Jen agreed with me. She goes, I want you to have some real experience, working alongside myself. I worked with their founder and CEO. I worked with the graphic designer, that sort of team collaboration across the board, not just now at school, but, to be able to do it in the workforce and have my work be seen by real paying customers. That was an experience I'll never forget, being my first internship experience. I still have a fantastic relationship with Jen. I reach out to her all the time. She's fantastic. She lives, right here in Norwalk, Connecticut. So she was great. Sports U's fantastic. For anyone that's interested, you check out sportsu.com or look up Sports U on the app, Apple Store, Samsung Store, Google Play, anything like that. I actually use Sports U for the Quinnipiac Club golf team. They're now in Sports U, so all the 25 members. It's a very simple way to streamline communication that's catered to sports teams. So that was really, truly a special experience.
There's a lot of things that stood out to me in the whole story that you presented, right? So many things that we're going to cover in this podcast. First of all, your switch into communications and PR. Yeah. Second, your time in the agency, which we're going to definitely talk about. Third, which I want to reflect on right now, you applied on LinkedIn for a full-time position. Knowing full well you weren't interested in this full-time position, and you were going to go into the interview and be fully transparent and say, hey, I'm not interested in doing this full-time, but I would really love an internship. What was going through your mind at the time? Was like, well, this can go both ways. Either
Mhm.
they really love this or
Mhm.
go along with it, or they just laugh me out of the room. Like, what was going through your mind? Like, were you just already, it's like, you know what, I'm in, whatever happens, happens?
Yeah, I mean, so it's a good point, right? So in my mind, as I was applying to everything, I just said, all right, I want a communications internship. I
Mhm.
prefer it to be in the sports world because I love sports. I want to have real world experience, right? Like I said, I don't want to go get coffees for my
Yeah.
boss. That's not how I want to operate. What really was going through my mind and what stuck out to me, it's something that my dad has said to me from, the first time I stepped into college and I stepped into the real world, quote unquote, right?
Mhm.
He goes, Louis, never be afraid to ask questions because what's the worst thing that can happen? The other party, whoever, they say no. Okay. If they say no, you move on, right? It
Mhm.
doesn't drastically really affect anything. So I always repeat that to myself if I'm in a classroom and I'm asking a question or whatever, or if I'm making a request, or even with this right now, what's the worst thing that happens? They say no and they turn me away. Okay, you move on to the next thing, right? That was going through my mind 100%. I also, it's funny because I had this conversation with a couple of our staff members up at camp who are, just going into college. Um, and a couple of them asked me, they were like, Louis, aren't you like a little bit nervous going into a field that you didn't major in or going
Mhm.
into a field where you don't have a ton of experience? I said, yeah, everyone's nervous. I'm not going to pretend that nerves aren't there, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's those nerves sort of motivate me to put myself out there. And also, if you can sell yourself, you're going to get hired, right? I
Yeah.
learned this from my father, who's the biggest role model in my life. Um, if you can sell yourself, you're going to get hired. If you're a hard worker, you're going to get hired, right?
Mhm.
And my dad, he's worked in IT for 40 years now or whatever, um, for companies like Unity and Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Um, so he's hired people all his life. And he goes, if there's someone with a lot of experience, right? Bunch of degrees, internships, whatever. And then there's someone with one or two jobs they've had in the past, and then they're working on their degree. If this person can sell themselves, and if this person's a hard worker, they're going to get hired over the other guy.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it's tough to sort of see that if you're, freshman, sophomore in college, because you just think it's all about the accolades. And in some respect, it is. The accolades normally are catered like towards your pay grade, right? Not necessarily you getting hired. I said to myself, I'm very confident in my experiences, as the program director at NBC. I've been a instructor at my local golf course for a while. And I thought about like, what do those two things have in common? Like they have nothing to do with communication. Well, somewhat, but you get what I'm saying.
Mhm.
But what they do have in common is they're all about building relationships. I keep going back to that, right?
Yeah.
It's about initiating, developing, and maintaining those relationships throughout your life, right? Everyone says build your network, build your network, build your network. And to some degree, that's a cliche, and I agree with it. However, I believe it's about building your network with the right people, right? And so when I went into the interview, like I said, I'm a very transparent guy. And I was like, Jen, I have no intention of working full time for you. However, if you would allow me, I'd love to talk to you about a potential internship and how I can be of service to your company, right?
Mhm.
And she goes, yep, let's talk about it. On the flip side of it, if she said no, I would just be like, okay, thank you for your time. And you hang up the phone, you move
Yeah.
on to the next one, right? So I guess that's where I was coming from. Was I always say to myself, what's the worst thing that happens? Someone says no. Someone says see you later, and or that's it, right?
Yeah.
You can move on from that. So I guess that's what was going through my head with Sports U, and that's the way I operate, in my life, right?
Amazing. You actually just answered the next question
Oh, beautiful.
a little bit. It's, what is your tip for anyone on an internship search?
Oh, well, there you go. Yep.
Very-
It's so it's all of that, right? And it's just about, again, it's cliche, but being confident, that's 50% of the battle. I'm telling
Mhm.
you, right? If you can sell yourself, if you're confident in your abilities, if you're just able to talk to another human being one on one, making eye contact, the basic public speaking stuff, right? If you can do that, you're good. You're right. Because people want someone they can mold, right? And
Mhm.
I'll give you an example. So I took one of the grad courses I took last year as a part of my senior year at Quinnipiac was investor relations.
Yeah.
I thought I would hate it, to be quite honest. I'm not a big finance economics guy. Like I understand the basics, but I went into it and I was like, I don't love it. By the end of the class, it was taught by Professor Laskin, who you know at Quinnipiac, and he was an IR professional for a while. That was my favorite, or one of my favorite courses last year. It was absolutely fantastic. And we had, I don't know if you know of the company Corbett Advisors. I don't know if you've heard of them.
He so Laskin brought in actually a
Rebecca.
person from Corbett. I think so. Yeah,
So it was probably Rebecca. She's the founder. Yeah. He brought her in to my class as well. Such an inspiring woman. Her story, she's such a self-starter, and it's incredible. And what I really got from her, and then hearing from a bunch of other people, it's hard to mold someone. So like, let's say, in IR firm, they're trying to choose between someone who's good at finance and who's good at communications, like talking to people, right? It's easier to teach someone who has no idea about economics, basic economics, than it is to teach someone basic communication skills. So if you already have good communication skills, you can get taught in anything. I guess that's another piece. I mean, that's the piece of advice I was working towards, is that hone and develop your communication skills, your ability to talk to someone one-on-one in a group, having good public speaking skills, and just being confident, right? Being able to sell yourself is something, from my experience and my perspective, employers look for. Having 50 degrees, a bunch of internships and other jobs is great. However, if you're able to communicate effectively, you're going to get hired in whatever field you need.
We're going to switch the topic a little bit. This is still along the lines of your previous work experience, but one of your interests is in golf. You've been both a golf caddy, a golf instructor, and you also play golf.
Yep.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So it's funny. So I actually got into the game. So I played baseball for the first 15 years of my life, or whatever it was. I still love baseball. My favorite team's the Red Sox. I follow every single game. Like, I'm a baseball nut.
You're always posting on Instagram.
Oh yeah. Trust, like, it's part of my personality, and I've embraced that, right? But I played baseball for the first 15 years of my life. I was pretty good in the field. I was just never a good hitter, right? And my issue in hitting, for those that know baseball, I would get under the ball way too much, and I'd, pop everything up. So I'd be sort of digging at the ground. And then one day, my dad and then my grandfather was like, Louis, try golf, because the golf swing is more of a digging motion and it's a little bit longer, right? Yeah. And so from the first time I stepped onto a golf course, I was about 10 or 11 years old. My family was on vacation in Vermont, and I was golfing with my dad and my brother. From the first time I stepped on the course, I was hooked. Like, I was so ready. And then it was also a means of connection with my dad and my grandfather, because they've played all their lives. Golf is a sport where you can play all your life. Like, you can't play football, baseball, soccer. You can't play that till you're 80. You can play golf forever. That and like tennis, I guess. So the game of golf has always provided me with sort of an outlet and a sense of peace, I guess. Stepping on that course that I've always loved. I can be also a pretty competitive guy, and so I like sort of having that competition when I'm playing with my brother and we're playing against each other. Or I played on my high school team for 3 years, and then I was on the club golf team here at Quinnipiac. So I've just always loved the game of golf. I've been a golf caddy since I was 12. I was there for 10 years, and that's what actually. So it's funny that I'm now going into communications and PR, because as a kid I was wicked shy. Didn't want to talk to anybody. Hands behind my back. Like, not like I didn't. My brother James, for example, when he was younger, he could go up to anybody and everybody and just like start up a conversation with them, which is great. I didn't do that. Now I'm fine with it, but being a caddy really taught me those basic communication skills: eye contact, pronunciation, confidence, right? Because when you're carrying the bag for someone, they're normally much older than you. And in the game of golf, you have etiquette that you need to follow. And the biggest one is respecting the game and who's playing, right? So, I was caddying for people who are in their, from their 20s till their 90s. I would caddy for them. And just being able to talk to those people and respecting my elders and learning that sense of communication, that proper communication, that professional communication, really has molded me into the person I am today. Golf is such a, they call it, it's a gentleman's game, right? It's such a respectful sport. I think that's why I love it so much. It's really been a great thing for me, and it's been a great way for me to connect to my family. Sort of, have that outlet of
Yeah.
de-stressing, hopping on the course, nothing but nature around you,
Mhm.
peace, and just hitting a white ball into the sky. I love that.
Would you say a lot of, or a big chunk of what you've learned in communicating with others
Mhm.
is stuff that you've developed during your time as a caddy?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. When to get into the program I got into, so I was a caddy at Worcester Country Club.
Mhm.
Um, it's a not anymore, but I guess you could still say it is a premier golfing destination in Massachusetts, private club. They hosted the very first Ryder Cup, um, which is a competition between the United States and Europe, their best players. It
Okay.
happens every 2 years. They've hosted a U.S. Open. They've hosted a U.S. Women's Open. This is back like in 1927 was the Ryder Cup, and the Open was in 1930, I believe. So a while ago. But people like Ben Hogan, Walter Hagen, they all played at Worcester. So it's a very prestigious club. The training program to get in was rigorous. It was a week-long training, and then you had to pass a test.
Yeah.
And you had to pass a test, and then you had to pass a field test, going out on the course and like raking bunkers, all this kind of stuff, right? So they only took 5 or 6 people from that class or whatever it was, because they wanted them to be as professional as they needed to be, right? And they also needed to be able to understand the game of golf. So from my training, from you know every morning when you walk in to the club, to the caddy's entrance, hello sir, good morning ma'am, how are you, how's it, like basic stuff really has sort of shaped the way I continue to talk to people today.
Mhm.
So I mean, I think Worcester Country Club has been great. I've had multiple bosses up there. We call them caddy masters. They've really shaped me into how I talk to people today.
You've obviously had a lot of experience with golfing,
Mm.
seeing that you've not only been a caddy, but you also know how to play golf.
Mhm.
I don't know how to play golf, and neither do a lot of people that I know, but my dad's always like, son, I want you to learn how to play golf one day. Do you
Mhm.
have any tips for anyone who wants to learn how to play golf? Where do you start?
You start at a driving range, number
Mhm.
one, um, and then the 2 tips. I mean, because so I've been a golf instructor for a while now, teaching kids 10 to 18. Um,
Yeah.
I don't care if they come in, or if anyone comes in and they've never picked up a golf club before, or they've been playing for 10 years,
Yeah.
right? Number one rule is keeping your head down when you're swinging, and then take the club back low and slow.
Hmm.
That's as basic as I can make it, right? So like if you're going to the range, you want to have fun, just remember to keep that head down and take that club back low and slow, and hopefully muscle memory will take over.
This next question that I ask is one that I ask on every single show of this podcast since the very first episode with my first guest and up till now.
Mhm.
How did we first meet?
Yeah. So I mentioned the agency at Quinnipiac a couple minutes ago. So that's actually where we first met. So the agency at Quinnipiac is a student-run PR and advertising firm within the Quinnipiac University School of Communications. It gives all students there the best hands-on experience in communications you're going to get at Quinnipiac. We operate like a normal ad and PR firm would, where we take on 3 to 4 clients every single year, whether they're through the school, they're nonprofits, they're for-profits, they're government organizations. And so we have account executives, senior account executives. We have vice presidents of different departments. And so, I met Sean here. He was our VP of design. And I was a senior account executive last semester at the agency. And so we worked on a number of different projects together. I'd say the biggest one was the agency website that went live at the end of last semester. Bumps and bruises will continue to get worked out there, but the base design of everything, that's all Sean and his team. So I worked with him very closely, myself and Julia, who are the agency account team. And we came to him with a vision of wanting to redesign that agency's website and redesign also the physical printables that we would distribute to potential clients and then new students who wanted to enter. And so we had a lot on our plate last semester. And so I saw him I would think every day, if not every other day,
Yeah.
right? So we worked very closely together at the agency, and it was a fantastic experience to work with him.
So, Louis, you actually answered the next question, which
I
was
love
what
it.
the agency is. And I want to take a step back here and just, share my side of story, which is usually how it goes, because I find that people have different ideas of how they met.
Absolutely.
But yes, I completely 100% agree. We both met at the agency. We actually do have a picture together from a photo shoot that we did. I'm actually going to put it here, right now.
I love it.
There it is.
I love it.
Amazing photo. And Louis, I have some updates for you, and I can actually show this because by the time that this episode comes out, it will be available to students. But
Sweet.
we have stickers made for one of the.
Oh, wait, they are out. That's awesome.
They are out. They are coming out, I believe, during the engagement fair. There's also more stuff, Louis. We have other stickers too. Say love and defend the den.
Oh wait, that's so similar to like the stuff Quinnipiac already has. That's
literally. That was the basis. And I actually worked on this in the summer, right?
Yeah.
This is going on every single door in the residence halls.
Yes.
And then
Love it.
I don't know where the other one is.
Yeah.
But I have one of the shirts right here.
Oh, yes.
They all say defend the den. So there's a yellow one.
Yeah.
There's also a light blue one. But the yellow one is cool in that the back.
Oh.
Yes, that.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
So
I know you would be excited to see that.
That is so awesome. To see, you know what's crazy, right? Is to see, we're going to talk about the agency a bunch more, obviously, but just to see how everything got. I mean, I wasn't on the account team that was the head of the Defend the Den product, but I worked with you closely and everyone else, right?
Yeah.
And to see where we started, which was literally ground zero, to where we are now and getting everything going, and to see the programs that are going to be implemented. That's such a testament to not only your, but everyone else's hard work. That is so awesome to see that everything is coming together and everything's going to be sported throughout campus. Like, dude, I remember the first time, because I was part of the agency the semester before as well. So I've been there for a year now. And I worked with Chartless Food Group, which is QU Dining. So I was the senior account executive on that account as well. The first time I saw one of our designs on the TV screens in Cafe Q, I like jumped for joy. Like, it was just so cool to see it, to see the hard work that went into it on campus.
And it's real world use.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And like it's the most, I said before, the most real world experience anyone can get in the school communications. It's got to come at the agency, because all the work you do goes out. Like, this isn't a game for any of our clients, right? This is real life. This is make or break time. This is real money that's being invested. That is so awesome to see the stickers and the shirts, but they'll be sported, I'm assuming, at hockey games and stuff throughout campus. Like, it's going to be awesome. That's so awesome to see.
I think some of the amazing things too about not only Defend the Den, but all of the other clients is one, that real world use. And just, I feel like all of this came at such a perfect time. Like, it's always just a strategic time for everything. Like, take Defend the Den, for example, or even the agency. Especially our school, Quinnipiac, is just growing exponentially this year. Like, there are so many positive changes happening on the campus, and it gets to come alongside that. The other side of the coin is we worked so collaboratively as one whole team. Yeah, really. It wasn't just any of us doing our own thing. It was all of us collaborating every single time. I mean, that Slack was always, to check that Slack, because there's always something happening there. I think we had, such a great group. Yeah. And how can people, I know the answer to this, but how can students at Quinnipiac specifically get involved with the agency?
Absolutely. So I would say, number one, check out our brand new website. It's absolutely beautiful. The URL right now is a little funky because we're getting things mixed up with Wix and stuff like that. But it will eventually be theagencyqu.com. So go and check that out. Go check out our Instagram. I think it's just the agency QU as well. And then also, to get, I'd say, more hands-on experience, we have an agency office in the school communications. So if you walk right in, you literally can't miss it. It says the agency, like, on the wall.
A lot of branding on it.
Yeah, like, there's posters and stickers. There's a couch in there now, I saw.
Yes.
fantastic. Professor Powers sent me a picture of you on sitting on the couch the other day.
Yeah.
So that place it's like a lounge. So if there's someone in there, go say hi, ask them questions, and then I would say talk to Professor John Powers, because he's been at the agency for over a year now. Or Professor Andrea Opston, she was there last year as well. Professor Alexander Laskin, he was with Professor Powers the semester before.
Yeah.
So either asking any and all faculty, going to our website, going to our Instagram, or just go to our office.
There you go. Get involved. That will actually be linked in the description as well. I have a story about that couch, but first, here's the picture right here, putting it right there. That's the picture of the couch. All right. So the story behind that couch, Louis, is that Professor Powers and I were meeting about something on that day, and then all of a sudden he just goes, "You know what? We have a couch, and I've been meaning to move it in. Can you help me move the couch?" So we carried that couch from his old office, because his office got moved now, and now he's in. Now the couch is in the agency room. So those offices right next to the dean suite?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in one of those now.
Oh, he got upgraded. Nice.
He went from where he was with the, what do you call it? Like the office divider things. Now he has his own office.
There we go. Look at
close to the agency room too.
I love it. That's so cool.
Anything else you want to mention about the agency?
Yeah, I mean, I just say to any and all students interested in a communications field, whether it's PR, graphic design, copywriting, copy editing, anything else that I might have missed, right? Apply to be in the agency, right? You can also do it as a grad student. Apply. Not this semester, obviously, but next semester, everything will go out on Instagram and LinkedIn, I would think. And so it's like, for me, for Pete's sake, I was a health science student. One of the biggest reasons I moved into communications was because of the agency. I was a part of everything. I was a part of the specific client work we did and the team organization that we had. And that really just turned me on to everything PR related, right? And I think it's important just to mention something you said also about how collaborative everything was. That's the way the real world works, right? It's funny, I'm going a little backwards now to camp, but one of my expectations that I give to the staff every week is I say, program is not a person, it's a people, right? And that can apply to literally everything, right? The agency isn't a person, it's a people. It's everyone involved, right? From our faculty advisors to our account exec teams, to our VPs, to the dean that oversees, everything, our funding, our client acquisition. So everything is collaborative, right? And it's so important to recognize that, and it's important to gain that experience. So if you're interested, either, you can reach Sean and myself can talk to you about it. So if you want to reach out to both of us, previous young professionals, a part of the agency, please get involved. Please get involved, because it's a truly fantastic experience.
Louis, on the topic of Quinnipiac, you recently graduated with your bachelor's degree. You're there now for your master's degree. You covered this a bit earlier, but you switched from health sciences, correct?
Yeah, so I majored in health sciences.
So you majored in health sciences, you graduated with your bachelor's in health sciences, and now you're pursuing a master's in public relations.
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about that switch? I know you covered it a little bit, but talk about that switch for us, because it seems like such a jump from wildly different things. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yep. Listen, you're not the first person to tell me that. And it's funny because I remember the exact date, not the exact date, but the exact day that I started to make that transition. And it was the final exam period of spring 2021. I was in, now the program's called PRR because we switched it, but it used to be called STC 101, which was, I think it was just Intro to Strategic Communications.
Yes.
And it was funny because that was just a random elective I had picked out of the blue. I was like, this looks kind of cool. And that was with Professor Powers. And so I was part of that class, and our final project was creating a campaign book assignment for a local nonprofit. And so my group and I chose the Children's Center of Hamden, which is 5 minutes from campus. And we got in front of it was a 70, 80 page document with suggestions and overview, SWOT analysis, TOES analysis, everything, right? And we submitted that report, and then we gave a half-hour presentation, right?
Yeah.
And after that presentation, Professor Powers, like, again, this is the last week of classes, so this is the last time I'm going to see everybody before, summer. And he calls me into the back of the room, and I was like, oh God, what is happening? I was nervous. And he looks me in the eye. He looks at me. He goes, Louis, why aren't you in the School of Communications? He doesn't like make a suggestion, or he just goes, why aren't you in the School of Com? I was like, well, to be honest, like, I laughed a little bit, and I was like, to be honest, Professor, I hadn't really thought about it. The reason I went into health sciences is because in high school, I took an anatomy and physiology class. It was my favorite thing in the world. I spent hours on end studying for it.
Yeah.
I previously had gone to Elon University in North Carolina for my first semester freshman year. I was a part of a cadaver lab down there, and I really thought I wanted to go into healthcare.
Yeah.
And then he told me that on that last day of classes, and I was like, maybe he's onto something, because I really enjoyed that course. I really enjoyed him and his way of teaching. And so that next semester, I think I did public speaking and something else. It was another communications course.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved it. And then I think halfway through that semester, I got a letter in the mail saying, you qualify for a 4+1 program in the School of Com. Are you interested? I talked with Professor Powers about it, and he goes, I think you should just go for it. Right. And so I applied to the 4+1 program in PR. I got in, and then that's sort of where everything took me. Oh no, I remember. So that next fall semester, that's when I started the agency, because Professor Powers recommended it to me, and he was like, just try it. It's not like a normal class. You just apply and just see how it goes. And then I loved it, and I was like, all right, I'm doing the agency again. And then now I was just full-blown communications, because I had so during COVID 2020 and my whole sophomore year, I stayed at home, as a lot of people did. And I really just lost my passion, I guess, for health sciences and that lab work and bio and chem. I still enjoyed it, but it just wasn't, I didn't go into every course like, all right, I'm ready to go. And so I felt that again when I took that intro to strategic comm course, and I was like, I love this. I want to keep that fire going. Professor Powers was a huge influence on me. My family actually they've been in PR for as long as I can remember. So my great uncle was the director of PR for Exxon and Mobil during the whole Exxon Valdez spill. So you want to talk about crisis communication. He spearheaded all of their efforts for, the better part of 5-6 years or whatever it was. So he's dealt with that. And then my uncle actually is the founder and CEO of a PR firm in Manhattan. So I've talked to him at great length about what he does. He has a lot of clients on Wall Street and in crypto and in the blockchain industry. So his clients are a little bit, and insurance too, a little bit different. But I've wrote a feature story on him about a year ago. And so to talk with him about his day-to-day, what he does, I guess all of it sort of culminated into me moving into communications. I didn't want to switch. If I were to switch my major, because I switched so late, like this was late junior year that I decided to do this.
Yeah.
It's so hard if I was like a business major, switching into communications is nothing, right? Yeah. But like my credits for anatomy and physiology, organic chemistry, those don't transfer.
Yeah.
So I was like, listen, I'll keep everything. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going into a field I want. So yeah, that's a long-winded answer to why I sort of switched.
Do you ever see in the future your health science studies and communication studies kind of intersecting at any point?
Absolutely. I was very skeptical of that exact thing when I first wanted to make the switch. And Professor Powers sort of eased my mind, because he was the director of PR for the Yale School of Nursing for 10,
something
15.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And he goes, you can have that overlap. That exists everywhere. Every single industry needs good PR professionals.
Yeah.
And so if you want to work for a hospital, a private practice, that's great. I don't believe I want to do that. I believe I want to go into agency life. That's why I'm interning at Minson Hoke this semester. And it's funny because one of the accounts I'll be working on is called All Access Health Connecticut. And they are a nonprofit organization that promotes public health care in the state of Connecticut. So Medicare, Medicaid, it's called Husky, I think, in Connecticut. But like that overlap, when I was in my interview for Minson Hoke, I talked to them about my background in lab work and research and healthcare in general, and just the understanding of the healthcare system. And they were like, oh, that's perfect, because one of the clients we want you to work on is in health insurance. I was like, great. So already I'm sort of seeing that overlap. Because I mean, I literally thought the same thing when I made the switch. I'm like, no way this is going to transfer. And then with Professor Powers and then hopefully this new internship, I'm already seeing that overlap. And what my background in health sciences can do, because the background is mostly in research. Again, I've, for the better part of 3 years at Quinnipiac, I put together 30, 40-page lab reports, which, communication students don't do that. But that background in research, I think really sets me apart, because a good amount of what gets dismissed in PR all the time is the initial research of your potential client, your current client, their demographics, their publics, right? So to have that background in research and being so detail oriented, I think is really good.
Louis, we're almost done with our time here, but I just have a couple more questions, and these will be, sort of quote unquote speed round.
Sure.
For you. But regarding your interests, you have a very wide taste in music, according to your note sheet here. 80s/90s/2000s, early 2000s, actually. Country, etc. Can you talk to us a little bit about how did you get this wide music taste? I mean, I can imagine your playlists here.
Oh yeah, they're all over the place, right? So I'm just someone who enjoys good music, and it comes from my dad. He was a DJ in college, and he believes all songs should have a purpose and all lyrics should have a purpose. And so from the time I was 8, one of my favorite bands is the band Rush. And Yes, I don't know if you've heard of them. But songs like Roundabout, Tom Sawyer, and then artists like Peter Gabriel, Phil Collins. I'm like looking at my playlist right now so I can remember. And then late 90s, the Bare Naked Ladies. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're fantastic.
Heard of them, yes.
Steelers Wheel, Foreigner, right? The Doobie Brothers. Like, I love all of that old time music because it all means something, right? One of my favorite songs is Red Bar Jetta by Rush. And it's a story about a car. That's all it is. And if you listen to the lyrics, it's so intentional. It's about 6.5-minute song. It's so intentional. Same thing with another song they have is called The Manhattan Project. And it's all about, the building of the atomic bomb. And it's just, every song has a purpose, right? So whether it's the 80s, the 90s, my early 2000s, that's just all the throwbacks that I grew up on. So I just think, early Katy Perry, all that kind of stuff. I just think that's fun to listen to. And then from my grandfather, I'm a big Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin guy too.
Nice.
So
love that. You also have an interesting choice of favorite sports teams. Now I want to read what you wrote here.
Oh yeah.
Top interest: following/watching sports. New York Giants.
Yep.
Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, that's it.
How did that happen?
Yeah. So I'm from Massachusetts, obviously. And so, I spent my high school days getting shoved into lockers because I'm a Giants fan. But so the reason I'm a Giants fan is because my godfather and then his brothers, so my dad's cousins, they grew up in Manhattan. And ever since I was about 8 years old, they've had season tickets. Well, they've had season tickets to the Giants forever. But they've been taking me to games since I was about 8. So I'm going to week 1, Giants Cowboys in 3 weeks or whatever it is. I've always been a Giants fan. That's the way I've connected with them. I've been to 2 Patriots games in my life. I've been to over 15 Giants games, probably more. So that's what I grew up on. They sort of molded me. My dad hates me for it because he's a big Patriots fan and I'm a Giants fan now. But there's that. And then they never really took me to, they took me to a couple baseball games, but I've always been a Boston Red Sox fan. Like when we won the World Series in 2004, my dad sat me in front of the TV. I was 4 years old. My dad sat me in front of the TV and had me watch it. Same thing in 2007. And then, 2013, 2018, I remember those more vividly. So I went to the parades. I love the Red Sox. I love the Giants. So I'm a Celtics and Bruins fan too, but I don't follow hockey and basketball as closely. So everyone asks me, how on God's green earth are you a Giants and a Red Sox fan? Like I have like Red Sox stuff in my apartment, and then but like my
Yeah.
keys have a Giants keychain.
Yeah.
Like it's
And
weird.
you're right in the middle of Boston territory too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
But you find what you love and you just stick with it, right?
That's it.
Where can our listeners find you online?
Yes. So I'll just say, I mean, my Instagram probably is the best thing for it. To be quite honest, I'm looking it up. I forget. It's Louis _Stamoulis. So that's LOUIS_STAMOULIS. That's my personal Instagram. Really only the things that are on there. Like my posts are all about camp. That's literally it. And then on my stories, Sean, it's all sports and even more camp stuff. Yeah, that's my Instagram. If you find my Instagram, you can find my Facebook. I don't post on Facebook ever, but I guess there's that. And then, that's pretty much it.
Louis, before we end, anything else you'd like to add? Any things you've been working on, just want to mention?
Yeah, not much. I just moved into a new studio apartment, so I'm excited about just hanging here for the next year. Thank you. Hanging here for the next year and getting my master's. I start my internship in less than a week, so I'm excited about that. And I'm just, hanging out, watching sports, listening to music.
All right, Louis, thank you for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate you being here. You provided so much insight, so much value. Yeah. And thank you.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Sean. This is an absolute blast. And let me know if you need anything else.